Hello. How are you? Are you okay? Oh, you are scared? Of who? Of me? Oh, no. Don't worry. Don't worry. I will not hurt you at all. Don't worry, okay? Okay. Yes, I am a good doll. I will not hurt you. Yes, I am here to tell you some spooky stories for this Halloween. I hope that you will celebrate it, right? So, tonight is the night for some spooky stories. Yes. Well, they are not very scary, I hope. But I also hope that you will have some goosebumps. Yes. So, I am a doll, so I don't have a good memory. And I will be using my iPad for these spooky stories. Yes, I will read them to you if you don't mind. So, if you are ready, you can turn off the light and listen to me. Okay, good. The first story will be about yellow ribbon. Yes, a yellow ribbon. Okay. Jane wore a yellow ribbon around her neck every day. And I mean every day, rain or shine. Whether it matched her outfit or not. It annoyed her best friend Johnny after a while. He was her next door neighbor and had known Jane since she was 3. When he was young, he had barely noticed the yellow ribbon. But now they were in school together. It bothered him. "Why do you wear that yellow ribbon around your neck, Jane?" He'd asked her every day, but she wouldn't tell him. Still, in spite of this aggravation, Johnny thought she was cute. He asked her to the soda shop for an ice cream sundae. Then he asked her to watch him play in the football game. Then he started seeing her home. And come the spring, he asked her to the dance. Jane always said yes when he asked her out. And she always wore a yellow dress to match her ribbon on the neck. It finally occurred to Johnny that he and Jane were going steady, and he still didn't know why she wore the yellow ribbon around her neck. So he asked her about it yet again, and yet again she did not tell him. "Maybe someday I will tell you about it," she'd reply. Someday, that answer annoyed Johnny, but he shrugged it off because Jane was so cute and fun to be with. Well, time flew past as it has a habit of doing. And one day, Johnny proposed to Jane and was accepted. They planned a big wedding, and Jane hinted that she might tell him about the yellow ribbon around her neck on the wedding day. But somehow, what with the preparations and his beautiful bride and the lovely reception, Johnny never got around to asking Jane about it. And when he did, remember, she got a bit teary-eyed and said, "We are so happy together. What difference does it make?" And Johnny decided she was right. Johnny and Jane raised a family of 4 with the usual ups and downs, laughter and tears. When their golden anniversary rolled around, Johnny once again asked Jane about the yellow ribbon around her neck. It was the first time he'd brought it up since the week after the wedding. Whenever their children asked him about it, he'd always hushed them, and somehow none of the kids had dared ask their mother. Jane gave Johnny a sad look and said, "Johnny, you have waited this long. You can wait a while longer." And Johnny agreed. It was not until Jane was on her deathbed a year later that Johnny, seeing his last chance slip away, asked Jane one final time about the yellow ribbon she wore around her neck. She shook her head a bit at this persistence and then said with a sad smile, "Okay, Johnny, you can go ahead and untie it." With shaking hands, Johnny fumbled for the knot and untied the yellow ribbon around his wife's neck, and Jane's head fell off. Okay, my sweetie, I hope that you didn't scared a lot. Okay, let's move on. I have another story for you about love, actually. Yes, let's start. He never paid much attention to the neighbors living on his city block until the day the pretty middle-aged widow moved in 2 doors down from him. She was plump and dark, with sparkling eyes, and she always wore dark gloves on her hands, even indoors. He went out of his way to meet her, and they often bumped into each other in the street and stood talking. One day, as she brushed the hair back from her forehead, he caught a glimpse of gold under the glove on her right arm. When he asked about it, she grinned coquettishly and told him that she had lost one hand a few years back and now wore a golden hand in its place. In that moment, a terrible lust woke in his heart. Not to possess the lady herself, but to possess a solid gold hand that she wore under her long black gloves. He courted the widow with every stratagem known to him: flowers, trips to the theater, gifts, compliments, and he won her heart. Within a month, they were standing in front of a minister, promising to love one another until death parted them. Within another month, he was a widower and had buried her ailing wife in the local cemetery without her golden hand. It had been so easy, a slow poison administered daily to resemble a wasting disease. No one, not his wife, not the family doctor, not their neighbors, suspected murder. And the night after the funeral, he slept with the golden hand under his pillow. It was a dark night. Clouds covered the moon, and the wind was whistling down the chimney and rattling the shutters of the townhouse. He was deeply asleep when the door to his room slammed open with a loud bang, and the wild wind whipped around the room, scattering papers and books and clothing and table covering every which way. He sat up, startled by the sudden noise, and his pulse began to pound when he saw a greenish white light bobbing slowly into the room. Before his eyes, the light slowly grew larger, taking on the shape of his dead wife. She was missing one arm. "Where is my golden hand?" she moaned, her dark eyes blazing with red fire. "Give me my golden hand." He tried to speak, but his mouth was so dry with fear that he could only make soft, gasping noises. The glowing phantom moved closer to him, her once lovely face twisted into a hideous green mask. "You stole my life, and you stole my hand. Give me back my golden hand," the dead wife howled. The noise rose higher and higher, and the phantom pulsed with a strident green light that smote his eyes, making them water. He cowered back against his pillows, and the hard shape of the golden hand pressed against his back. And then he felt the golden hand twitch underneath him as the mangled green phantom that had been his wife swooped down upon him, pressing his face against the pillow in a suffocating green cloud. He tried to scream, but it was cut off suddenly by a terrible pressure against his throat, cutting off his breath. The world went black. The next morning, when the housemaid came into the room with her master's morning cup of tea, she found him lying dead on the floor with a golden hand clutched around his throat. So, what do you think about this story? Yeah, I think so too. Let's move on. The next story I found for you is Love Test. Years ago in Japan, there was a young girl who lived with her parents in a remote village. She was very attractive with long black hair, pale white skin, and stunning oval eyes. young Japanese men would come from miles around just to ask her out on a date. As word of her good looks spread around the area, more and more boys would turn up on her doorstep, professing their love for her and begging to be allowed to take her out for the evening. However, the problem was that none of the young men lasted more than one date with her. Before the night was over, they were always seen running away, screaming in terror. None of them would ever talk about what had happened, and all refused to meet her again. Before long, the young men stopped coming to visit, and her parents began to despair that their daughter would never find a husband. Rumors began to spread around the village. People said there must be something wrong with the beautiful girl. Some people wondered if she had a horrible personality. Others were of the opinion that she had some kind of hideous deformity that was driving away all of the boys. Her parents were mystified. They couldn't understand why so many young men were terrified by their daughter. She was always so sweet, gentle, happy, and even-tempered. She studied hard in the evenings and never complained when her mother asked her to do chores around the house. One day, as her father was out in their garden mowing the lawn, a young man came walking up the garden path. "What do you want?" the old man asked. "I would like to date your daughter," said the young man. The father was delighted. "Come right in," he said, and he happily introduced the young man to his beautiful daughter. The girl seemed very shy and never looked directly at the young man. She spoke softly, her voice barely above a whisper, and whenever he spoke to her, she blushed bright red. Despite this, the young man seemed very taken by her beauty and asked her out on a date. She accepted and accompanied him to the door when he was leaving. "Not now," she whispered. "Come back at midnight and be careful not to knock too loud, or you will wake my parents up." The young man was surprised, but he came back that night and tapped softly on her bedroom window. Suddenly, the window opened and the girl climbed out. "Before I go out with you, you have to promise me something," she whispered. The young man nodded eagerly. "I want you to take a love test," she said. "If you really love me, you will pass the test. Promise me that if you fail the test, you will never tell anyone about what went on tonight." The young man couldn't imagine what the beautiful young girl had in mind, but he agreed to remain silent. With his hand on his heart, he said, "I solemnly swear that I will never breathe a word of it to anyone." "Okay, follow me," said the girl. "Where are we going?" the young man asked, but the girl didn't reply. It was a dark night, and the moon was hidden behind a layer of clouds. In Japan, they say that it is on this type of night that ghosts wander the earth. The two young people could hear the ominous sounds of dogs howling in the distance. They slipped quietly through the desert village streets until they came to the woods. The girl hurried down a dark, overgrown path, and the young man had to run to keep up with her. The path was bordered with enormous trees that loomed over them like huge monsters. Eventually, they reached an old cemetery. The moon emerged from behind the clouds, casting a pale light, and the young man could see old gravestones covered with moss and creeping vines. The girl's night dress was billowing in the breeze. She was standing at the edge of a grave that looked quite fresh. As the young man watched, she picked up a rusty old spade and began to dig, flinging clumps of dirt everywhere. Then she dropped to her knees and swept aside dirt with her hands until she uncovered a coffin. Imagine his surprise when she lifted the lid, opened the wide shroud, and tore an arm off the corpse inside. Then she clamped it between her teeth and took a large bite. She chewed it loudly while staring at him. "This is the dust of love," she hissed. "If you love me, you will do what I do. You will eat what I eat." With that, she ripped the other arm off the corpse and tossed it to the young man. He didn't hesitate for a moment. He picked up the arm and took a large bite. Now he was even more surprised. He never thought human flesh could be so delicious. Suddenly he realized that he wasn't eating a dead body at all. It was all just a prank. It was a candy corpse made of sugar and rice flour. The beautiful girl burst out laughing. "You know, of all the boys who came to take me on a date, you are the only one who didn't run away. I want to marry someone who is brave, and this proves you are the one. Now I can fall in love with you." The young man didn't crack a smile. He just stood there in the darkness by the edge of the grave, staring at her. His eyes were filled with rage and anger. "Only candy," he growled. "I thought you just like me." With that, he grabbed the shovel and started to dig another grave. When he unearthed a coffin, he broke it open and began devouring the dead body inside. This time, it was a girl who ran away screaming. "Oh, this one was creepy, right?" Yeah, well, I have one more story for you, and it is called Magic Castle. Yeah, I love castles. I wish I could live in a large castle full of candy. You know, because my name is Candy. If you didn't know. Yeah, nice to meet you. Okay. I want to read a story for you. There was a woman who lived in a remote village in the countryside. Every evening, she took her dog for a walk in the forest. One evening, they strayed off the path and came to an area that was completely unfamiliar to her. From a distance, she saw the old ruins of a stone wall, and there was something green on it. As she walked closer to the wall, she was able to make out a message written in a ghastly green layer of glowing slime. It read, "Do not go to the magic castle at midnight." She had heard rumors about the magic castle in the forest. The villagers told scary stories about the castle and claimed that it was haunted. The woman was very curious and wondered what could be in the castle. Why would someone write a message warning people not to go there? Her curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to visit the castle that very night. Shortly before the midnight, the woman arrived at a clearing in the woods. In front of her stood the magic castle. It looked old, uninhabited, and dilapidated. Even from the outside, it smelled of damp, mold, and rotting wood. On the door, there was another message in the green, slimy letters. It read, "Do not enter." She reached out and touched the front door. It opened with a loud and ominous creak. The woman walked into the hallway. On the floor, she saw a painting of a gruesome red skull. Beside it, in slimy green letters, it was the message, "Do not go one step further." The woman was overcome by curiosity and paid no attention to the warning. She just kept right on walking until she came to a staircase that led up to the next level. On the bottom step, there was another warning sign written in the same green, slimy letters. It read, "Do not go up these stairs." Naturally, the woman paid no heed to the warning and started walking up the stairs. The steps were made of wood, and they creaked terribly at every footfall. When she reached the top, the woman found herself in front of a large oak door. There was yet another warning on it, written in the same green slime. It read, "Do not open this door." And what did the woman do? She opened the door. Very slowly and gently, she pushed the door, and it creaked open, inch by inch. Then she stood in a dark room. She couldn't see anything. As her eyes adjusted to the darkness, she saw a large, oblong box in the middle of the room. It glowed with a greenish hue. Once again, she saw a warning in green slime. It read, "Do not open this coffin." The woman wondered what could be in the coffin. Slowly, she pushed the heavy lid of the coffin to the side. Filled with excitement and dread, she looked inside and saw many colorful Smarties. Okay, this one was a little funny, wasn't it? I knew that you would like it. Okay, so this was the last story for the night. Spooky stories. I hope that you had some scary moments and that you liked to spend this time with me. Also, I want to wish you a happy Halloween and some lovely dreams tonight. Yeah? Okay, so goodbye for now. I will see you next time. It was nice to meet you. Can I give you a kiss? Oh, thank you. You are so sweet. Okay, I am very happy.